Good morning. My topic of presentation is shock, and my moderator is Hollasar. Shock. Shock is the clinical condition of organ dysfunction resulting from an imbalance between cellular oxygen supply and demand. This life-threatening condition is common in intensive care units. The organ dysfunction seen in early shock is reversible with restoration of adequate oxygen supply, and if left untreated, shock transits from this reversible phase to an irreversible phase, and death may occur due to multi-organ dysfunction. Pathophysiology of shock. In aerobic metabolism, when there is an adequate oxygen supply, cell metabolizes glucose to pyruvate, which then enters the mitochondria, where ATP is generated via oxidative phosphorylation. And in an anaerobic metabolism, without sufficient oxygen supply, cell is forced into anaerobic metabolism in which pyruvate is metabolized into lactate with much less ATP generation per mole of glucose, and many ATP-dependent ion pumping systems are present in the body, such as the sodium-potassium ATPase, which consumes around 20 to 80% of cell's energy. Inadequate oxygen delivery and subsequent decreased ATP disrupt this cell's ability to maintain osmotic, ionic, and intracellular pH homeostasis, and influx of calcium can lead to activation of calcium-dependent phospholipases and proteases, causing cellular death, swelling, and death. And cellular hypoxia can cause damage at the organ system level via leakage of the intracellular contents into the extracellular space, activating inflammatory cascades and altering the microvascular circulation. Since shock is the clinical manifestation of inadequate oxygen delivery compared to the cellular needs, we will review determinants of oxygen delivery. The two major components include cardiac output and arterial oxygen content. The two components of cardiac output are heart rate and stroke volume, which can be substituted in this equation. And major determinants of stroke volume are preload, afterload. Afterload includes systemic vascular resistance and cardiac contractility. And the relation can be represented as stroke volume is directly proportional to preload into contractility by systemic vascular resistance. And arterial oxygen concentration is composed of oxygen carried by convection with hemoglobin and oxygen dissolved in blood. It can be given by the formula hemoglobin into 1.39 into saturation of oxygen plus partial pressure of oxygen into 0.03. So all these variables like heart rate, preload, contractility, systemic vascular resistance, saturation of oxygen, or hemoglobin has the potential to reduce oxygen delivery and cause cellular hypoxia. Classification of shock. Shock can be classified as distributive, cardiogenic, obstructive, and hypovolemic. And in distributive, there are various types like septic shock, pancreatitis, severe burns, anaphylactic shock, neurogenic shock, endocrine shock, and adrenal crisis. Cardiogenic shock includes myocardial infarction, myocarditis, arrhythmia, and valvular causes like severe aortic valve insufficiency and severe mitral valve insufficiency. Obstructive causes of shock include tension pneumothorax, cardiac tamponade, restrictive pericarditis, pulmonary embolism, aortic dissection, and hypovolemic includes hemorrhagic GLOS, burns, and conditions having polyuria like diabetic ketoacidosis and diabetes insipidus. Hemodynamic characteristics of major types of shock. In distributive shock, it is the condition of reduced oxygen delivery where primary physiological disturbance is reduction in the systemic vascular resistance. So, central venous pressure is decreased, pulmonary capillary wedge pressure is decreased, but cardiac output is increased and the systemic vascular resistance is decreased. And in cardiogenic shock, which is characterized by reduced oxygen delivery related to a reduction in cardiac output owing to primary cardiac problem, there will be an increase in central venous pressure and increase in pulmonary capillary wedge pressure and decrease in cardiac output and increase in systemic vascular resistance. In obstructive shock, characterized by reduction in oxygen delivery related to reduced cardiac output, the etiology being extracardiac processes impairing the blood flow, there will be increase in central venous pressure, there may be decrease or increase of pulmonary capillary wedge pressure, and decreased cardiac output and increased systemic vascular resistance. In hypovolemic shock, which encompasses disease process that reduce cardiac output by a reduction in preload. There will be decreased central venous pressure, decreased pulmonary capillary wedge pressure, decreased cardiac output, but increased systemic vascular resistance. Stages of shock. Stages of shock can be defined as pre-shock, shock, and irreversible shock. Pre-shock is compensated shock where there are no overt signs of organ dysfunction. Symptoms like tachycardia, peripheral vasoconstriction, elevated serum lactate levels may be present. In decompensated shock, there will be evidence of organ dysfunction like dyspnea, restlessness, diaphoresis, metabolic acidosis, hypotension, oliguria, cool clammy skin. And in irreversible shock, there will be a multi-system organ failure like anuria, acute renal failure, hypotension resistant to therapy, disorientation, asthenia, and also death. Evaluating shock. So for evaluation of shock, the different kind of types of shock should be assessed. Distributive shock from sepsis, there will be a history of fever and focal site of infection. But in case of an anaphylactic distributive shock, there will be symptoms like onset of hives, dyspnea, new facial edema after exposure to common allergens. In a cardiogenic shock, there will be symptoms like exertional chest discomfort, syncope or perisyncope. In hypovolemic shock, there will be history of trauma, whether blunt or penetrating, or GI bleed like hematemesis, melena, or bright red blood per rectum. In obstructive type shock, a patient with hypertension and tearing chest or back pain may be presenting with acute aortic dissection. The acute onset chest pain with dyspnea in the setting of immobility and or underlying malignancy may also suggest an pulmonary embolism. Examination in the patients of shock. Most cases it manifests as hypotension, mean arterial pressure being less than 60 mmHg, but this finding is not always present. CNS, kidney, and skin are assessed for the evidence of organ dysfunction. New onset encephalopathy may represent the decompensated shock, and in patients with normal baseline renal functions, oliguria less than 0.5 ml per kg per hour may indicate shock, and decreased capillary refilling time and cold and clammy skin are signs of hypoperfusion and shock. So, evaluation of JVP and peripheral edema can provide insight into right-sided cardiac pressures. JVP may be elevated in cardiogenic shock and reduced in hypovolemic shock, and pulmonary auscultation can identify signs of left-sided cardiac dysfunction. Shock with high cardiac output, that is the distributive shock, there will be warm peripheral extremities, brisk capillary reflex less than 2 seconds, and bounding pulses. But shock with low cardiac output like cardiogenic shock, hypovolemic shock, and obstructive shock, there will be cool extremities, delayed poor capillary refilling, or weak pulses. Combinations of easily assessed examination components have been combined to create a scoring system to identify the people at high risk. Shock index is one such, which is defined by heart rate by systolic blood pressure, normal range being 0.5 to 0.7. Elevated is a more sensitive indicator for transfusion requirement, and SOFA score, rapid assessment scale, which that assigns a point of point for SPP less than 100, respiratory rate greater than 22, or altered mental status. Glasgow Coma score less than 15. A SOFA greater than or equal to 2 is associated with significantly greater risk of death or prolonged ICU stay, and has been recommended to identify the most acutely ill subset of patients with sepsis. Various initial laboratory tests like lactate, RFT, LFT, cardiac enzymes, CBC, PTINR, urine analysis, ABG, and ECG are taken. So initial management includes placement of a peripheral venous catheter for access to aggressive volume resuscitation in distributive and hypovolemic shock. In patients with ongoing hypertension despite adequate volume resuscitation, placement of a central venous catheter is indicated to provide therapy with vasopressors and inotropes. The central venous catheter will provide a mechanism for hemodynamic monitoring also to obtain central venous oxygen saturation also. Placement of an arterial line allows for intravascular measurement of blood pressure and continuous determination of mean arterial pressure. The arterial line provides access for determination of arterial oxygen since peripheral oximetry measurements can be unreliable in states of tissue hypoperfusion. All patients with shock should have a urinary catheter placed to permit hourly assessment of renal function as, and volume resuscitation, which is given to restore tissue perfusion. Most patients with any of the four types of shock will benefit from an increase in intravascular volume. Patients with distributive shock need for aggressive volume replacement is well established, and for patients with a suspected septic shock, a minimum of 30 ml per kg is recommended by the Surviving Sepsis campaign. In general, volume replacement therapy should be given as a bolus with a predefined endpoint to assess the effect of the volume resuscitation. Most commonly, the volume resuscitation will begin with the crystalloids, and in patients with hypovolemic shock due to ongoing hemorrhage, volume replacement with packed red blood cells is also warranted. The passive leg raise test can predict responsiveness to additional IV fluids by providing the patient with an endogenous volume bolus and keeping the patient's head position horizontal and legs extended at 45-degree angle, and immediate assessment in changes of the cardiac output or pulse per pressure variation acts as a surrogate marker, and shock patients in mechanical ventilated state look at the changes in SV variation or pulse pressure variation during the respiratory cycle to assess volume responsiveness. A greater than 12% SV variation suggests a volume responsive state. The 2D echo is most commonly used to assess adequacy of volume resuscitation, like inferior vena cava diameter and IVC collapse. And alternatively, serial assessments of LV function can be performed while volume is being administered. Placement of a pulmonary artery catheter is another tool for assessment of volume status. The pulmonary capillary wedge pressure is used as a surrogate for left atrial pressure. And for patients who initially present with shock but then develop failure related to acute respiratory distress syndrome or renal failure, it may be reasonable to begin volume removal. Hence, volume status has to be reassessed frequently. Vasopressor and inotropic support. In patients with distributed shock, the aim is to increase the systemic vascular resistance. Norepinephrine is the first choice vasopressor, which has a potent alpha-1 and beta-1 adrenergic effects. Alpha-1 causes vasoconstriction and beta-1 causes positive inotropic and chronotropic effects. At high doses, epinephrine has a similar profile, but it is associated with tachyarrhythmias, MI, decreased flanking blood flow, and pulmonary hypertension and acidosis. And in distributive shock, vasopressin deficiency may be present, and vasopressin acts on the vasopressin receptor to reverse vasodilatation and redistribute flow to the flanking circulation. Vasopressin is safe and has a good role as second agent for hypotension in septic shock. Dopamine does not have any role as first-line agent in distributive shock. And for patients with cardiogenic shock, dobutamine is the first-line agent. It is a synthetic catecholamine with primarily beta-mediated effects and minimal alpha-adrenergic effects. The beta-1 effect increased inotropy and beta-2 effect vasodilatation with decreased afterload can be used with norepinephrine in patients with mixed distributive and cardiogenic shock. Ventilatory support. Supplemental oxygen should be initiated and titrated to maintain saturation of 90 to 95%. This may require intubation and initiation of mechanical ventilation. Patients with shock may have higher minute ventilatory needs to compensate for metabolic acidosis. As shock progresses, they may not be able to maintain adequate respiratory compensation, which may be a second indication to initiate mechanical ventilatory support. If mechanical support is initiated, it is important to provide ventilation with lung protective strategies focused on low tidal volume ventilation and optimization of positive and expiratory pressure to minimize ventilator-induced lung injury. This is a pictorial representation of approach to a patient in shock. In shock, if cold clammy extremities are there, it indicates a low cardiac output state. Examine for JVP and crackles. If increased JVP, evaluate for MI, do echocardiogram, invasive vascular monitoring, and management includes inotropes and afterload detection. So, if there is a decreased JVP and orthostasis, it indicates a hypovolemic shock. Intravenous fluid should be administered. If no improvement is there, think of adrenal crisis, right heart syndrome, or pericardial disease, and do echocardiography or invasive vascular monitoring. If there are warm bounding extremities, it indicates a high cardiac output state. It can be seen in septic shock or liver failure, and antibiotics and other supportive measures should be given accordingly. And patients with distributive shock secondary to anaphylaxis require removal of the inciting allergen, administration of epinephrine and vascular support with intravenous fluid resuscitation and vasopressor. Adrenal insufficiency requires replacement with intravenous stress dose steroids. Cardiogenic shock patients with arrhythmia may require treatment as outlined in advanced cardiac life support algorithms or placement of an artificial pacemaker. In cases of acute ischemic events, consideration must be given to revascularization and temporary mechanical support measures. In case of any valve dysfunction, emergency surgery may be required. Patients with hypovolemic shock due to hemorrhage may require surgical intervention in the case of trauma or endoscopic or interventional radiology procedures. In case of GA source of blood loss, among patients with obstructive shock, attention pneumothorax would necessitate immediate decompression. Proximal pulmonary embolism requires evaluation for thrombolytic therapy or surgical removal of the cord, and dissection of the ascending aorta may require surgical intervention. Thank you.